All right, before we start up, just a couple things. One of my students yesterday, one of the second-year students, she recently bought a new computer and it's running really slow. So I don't know if any of you have ever had this problem or not, but sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that it could be. You could have a lot of junk on there. You could have it set up where, there's possibly you've got a virus, etc. So I'm not trying to push this on you, but if you're interested in this, there's a product called Malwarebytes that you may or may not have ever heard of. And you can download the free version. That's the one that I have. And I run it once a week. And what it does is it goes in and tries to find anything that shouldn't be on a computer. And then it says, do you want me to try to eradicate it, like if it's a virus or whatever, or do you want me to just move it to a part of memory where it can't do any damage? Sometimes when you try to remove it, it says it can't remove it, but then it does quarantine it by putting it into basically into a area of memory where it can't be used. So again, there's a free version. I mean, there's other ones you can buy too, but this is the free one if you're interested. Again, if you say, I'm not interested, not hurting my feelings any. The other thing that I told her, and this is another product that's out there, and again, it's free. This was recommended to me by one of the other instructors here. It's called Ccleaner.com. And what it will do when you run it is it will go through your system and it will say, hey, you've got these extra files. For example, there's some temp files or there's some files that have been cached that you really don't need. And then it tells you how much space you can save by removing them. It doesn't remove them unless you tell it to. But again, they're just a couple of examples of stuff that you may or may not be interested in. All right? Okay, so with all that, this will be the last lecture from this PDF that I gave you, and it probably won't be long. Okay? My hope is that between now and the time we break, not only can we go over the chapter, but we can go over the rest of the problems that you had. All right? And then the rest of the period will be lab. Again, I will not be here tomorrow. I will not be here on Friday. There will be a piece of paper up front at the top front of the room both days. Please sign it to show that you were here. The wall next door will be open. Mr. Knott will be peeking in here periodically to make sure that it's, hopefully all of you show. All right? All right, so with all that, let's try to jump into Chapter 12, which is how to create views. All right? I may have said this to you before, but I want to show you something if you'd all look up on the screen here real quick. And that is, don't copy this because I'm making this query up. Did you hear me? I'm making this up. This doesn't mean anything. All right? But let's say that I was constantly running a query like this, where I was saying select c.cust first name, c.cust last name, c.cust street address. I'm going to leave it right there. And then e.emp first name, e.emp last name, e.emp street address. So let's say I was always running this query, all right? And I guess there'll be a little bit more to it in just a second, but you'll know what I mean in just a second. So I want to run this from customers, C, employees, E, where c.customer ID equals e.customer ID. All right? I don't know if you'd agree or not, but if you look at that query, there's enough up there where it'd be easy to make a mistake typing. All right? I mean, there's enough up there. This isn't even that big a query. We've created bigger ones than this. All right? So I don't even know if I ran this right now. I don't know if it would work or not. I could try it just for the hell of it. And I'll bring up sales orders that we've been working with. Go to the SQL window, paste it in, type go. Says I've got an error. Unknown. I don't remember what the field was that wasn't common between those two things. So I guessed and I was wrong. Oops. All right, so customers and employees, oh, they don't have a field in common. So that was great. But I can bring in another one. All right. So what you can see is I get 944 records back. All right. So I get each customer's first name, last name, etc., and each employee. Now, is that something you'd want to use? I don't know. But the point is, what I'm trying to get to and what I just mentioned to you is there's at least a chance that while I'm typing all this in, I can make a mistake. All right. All I have to do is come in here and add to this. I'm going to say create view, and I'm going to call it CE view for customer employees view as. All right, so I'm going to do that, and I got to spell create right. And I go back in and I run this again. All right, so now it just says create view. I click go, and notice it doesn't return anything. See that? But it created a brand new view that I didn't have before. So it created a brand new, it's not a file, but it's like one, that's called CE view. All right, so now I come in here and I type in select star from CE view. And I run it, and there's my 944 records. Now that may not seem like a big thing, but a view is a saved query. So if you've got queries you're running all the time, especially if they're very long, you can save them as views, run the view, and it'll really expedite matters. And again, that's what this chapter is on. All right? So let's take a look at what's in the chapter. An introduction to views, how views work, kind of just showed you that. Benefits of using views, I started showing you that. How to work with views, how to create one, how to create an updatable view, how to use the with check option, insert or delete rows via views, and alter or drop views. All right, again, short chapter. A view is a select statement that's stored in the database as a database object. Let's make it simpler than that. Two-word definition for a view, saved query. That's all it is. You create a query, you save it. All right? And they show some examples here. I'm not going to read this to you. All right? That's not even that big of a query up there. Select vendor name, vendor state, vendor phone from vendors. It's not that bad. But then you save it as vendors min. And notice then all you have to do is say vendors min. So rather than you constantly having to type in the same query, all right, you can use a view and save that query and then run it as you need it. So as it says here on the bottom of page 356, a view consists of a select statement that's stored as an object in the database. The tables that are used or referenced in the select statement are called the base tables. When you create a view, you can use the view anywhere when you would normally use the table. In other words, any CRUD operation. In other words, any select, any insert, any update, or any delete. All right? The thing about views that's so cool is they don't actually hold the data. It's kind of like they hold a picture of the data. So they can run a hell of a lot faster, all right, than the associated select statements. Why should you use them? I've already started saying these. But if you turn up to page 357, they show you 4 reasons why you should use these. Number 1, design independence. Views can limit the exposure of tables to external users and applications, so they make the application more secure. Number 2, data security. Same kind of thing. Number 3, they can simplify queries. Number 4, they can be used for, like we said, for virtually for updates, inserts, deletes, etc. Now, I've given you this example before, but I'm going to say it again anyway. If this confuses you, think of the different views that people have. I can go in right now, and as an example, I can come in here, and I can go into inside.rankin.org. So here's my view of Inside Rankin. All right, and I guess it didn't, well, you know where Inside Rankin is, there. So I can get in here, and that was attendance this morning. Okay, that makes sense? So I can go back to my main academic page, and I can see both of my classes. And I can go to either the pages or either class, or I can go to either class's work ethic grades. Does that make sense? All right. Now, Mr. Stacey, Mike Stacey, who comes in here after me, his page looks similar, but he's got different classes in here. Does that make sense? Now, Charles Corrigan can come in here, and Charles not only has his classes, but Charles can see every single IT class at Rankin, whether it's here, or whether it's in Perryville, or whether it's in St. Louis. So those are 3 different views of data. All right, and why are they different? Because Mr. Corrigan has got different responsibilities here than I have. That makes sense? I teach different things than Mr. Stacey teaches. All right, so all we're talking about with views is what you are allowing or not allowing the user to see. All right. You can create a view based on almost any select statement. And again, I've given you that other example. I said, I used the example of a personal banker versus a bank teller as far as their different views of your monetary data. All right? So to create a view, it's pretty simple. You can say create. You can say create or replace view as, and you give it a name. That's it. So it's all the select statements that we've been doing thus far. The only difference that's in here is now you're putting create view with a view name or create or replace view with a view name as. That's why I said I didn't think it would probably take about 10 or 15 minutes to go over this chapter, and that's it. But when you start to look at queries like this one right here, again, it's not that that's that terrible of a query, but it's a lot of typing. It's really easy to screw it up. All right? I know I told you about one of my old students who got a job as a database guy. And he told me the biggest query he ever had to type was the equivalent of 11 pages. All right, well, did he type all those 11 pages in? Hell no. He got each piece of the query to work, then he put them together a piece at a time. Once that worked, then he created a view to hold that. He didn't want to be typing in 11 pages worth of query every time he needed to run the query. He wanted to do it once and then save it as a view. So again, you use the create view statement to create a view. If you include the or replace keywords, The create view will replace any existing view that has that name. All right. If you name the columns of a view, you have to name all of the columns. So if you name one, you've got to name them all. You can create a view based on another view. That's called a nested view, like a view within a view. You can also use views and make things that are updatable. Again, there may be a reason that you want to do something like that. And as they mention on page 363, here's the requirements. If I have the word distinct in there, I can't make an updatable view out of it. If I have any of those aggregate functions we talked about, count, count star, min, max, average, etc., can't create an updatable view based on that. Can't have a group by or a having, and can't have a union. The good news is if you try doing something illegal and the system doesn't know what it is you're trying to do, it just doesn't let you do it. But sometimes when that happens, the message that it gives you is sort of obtuse. And what I mean is it may or may not make, the message itself may or may not make sense. That's all. So you can create updatable views, and notice what it says. An updatable view can be used in an insert, update, or delete statement to update data in the base table. If it's only got a select in it, in other words, if it's not meant to update anything, it's called a read-only view. All right? The requirements for coding updatable view are more restrictive than read-only views. All right? The system is trying to protect you from yourself and to make sure that you don't do anything that could or would allow you to change or delete data without asking you first. All right? There's something called the with check option on 364 and 365. Notice what the author says here. The example on the next page shows an example of an updatable view that uses the with check option clause to prevent an update if it causes the row to be excluded from the view. It's trying to protect you from you. It's trying to make sure that you don't remove something or change something you didn't mean to remove or you didn't mean to change. All right, so there's an updatable view that has a with check option. And again, when you go through and do this, if you attempt to do something with the with check that you shouldn't do, it says, hey, this failed. I know what you tried to do, but because you put the with check option in there, all right, I'm not going to let you do it. You say, well, how do I get around that? Either you remove the option or you write the query in a different way. And that's exactly what they're saying here. If you don't include the with check option, all right, you can make a change, which could end up taking your data and screwing it up, corrupting the data in some way. With the with check, it doesn't allow you to do that, period. Like I said, I don't know how to make it any clearer than that. Hopefully that's at least somewhat clear. Just a couple more pages. How to insert or delete rows through a view. What do you do? All right. There's an insert statement. Okay. And it says here, well, this isn't working. All right. It says the response from the system. The underlying table doesn't have a default value. If you try to go and insert something and you don't include everything and do it in the right way, this will fail. Same kind of thing. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. That if you attempt to do a delete of a parent table and the parent has a child, it won't, if there are any child records, it won't allow you to do it. Same exact thing we talked about yesterday. Finally, After you create a view, you can alter it if you want to do that. Once you create a view, you can drop it. If you've got a view, if you look up on the screen here, because this is it for the chapter. If I do this, you saw that that worked. But if I come back and I drop either the customers table or the employees table or the orders table, if I drop any one of them, any two of them, or all three of them, when you drop the table or tables the view needs, the view is automatically removed. Do you hear that? Again, it does that to protect you. Okay. And like I said, that's it. So if you would, fire up XAMPP. All right. Get into phpMyAdmin. Bring up the sales orders table. And we're going to go through numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you might even think, okay, that's fine. Why did you assign this then if we're basically doing much of it ourselves? 9, 10, and 11, and 12 especially, they're programming. We're going to put an if statement in here right now. All right? All right. Yesterday, I'm going to clean this up. Just give me a second here. Yesterday, you may or may not remember, we did this query as a class. This was number 8 that we did as a class. Come on, back to there. We wrote this query. So what did we do? We selected what the hell's going on? Somehow my tabs are getting all screwed up in here, but that's okay. All right. So we said go to the products table and give us the product name. Go to the order details table and give me the quantity ordered. go to the products table and give me the retail price, go to the product vendors table and give me the wholesale price, and then do that ordering. All right? You should all have this. This is one that we did, like I said, yesterday as a class. All right? So hopefully what's in there makes sense to you. All right? So I'm going to grab that query, and I'm just going to copy it to the clipboard because I'm going to use it again in just a minute. All right. Now, number 9 on here says rewrite the query above. So rewrite the same query. All right? And it says use an if statement to check on the quantity ordered. If the quantity is greater than 5, add a new calculated column called updated wholesale price. In other words, if they ordered more than 5 things, they're going to get a 25% price break. Look at that query. Shake your head up and down if it makes sense to you. I'm being serious. Anybody who's got a question on it. Because we're going to add the if statement in here to do this. All right? So I'm going to go back to the query we just had, this one. And not only now do I want the product name, the quantity ordered, the retail price, and the wholesale price, but I want to come in here and I want to add an if statement. So after wholesale price, I'm going to add a comma right there. I just added that comma that you see in blue. And I'm going to say here, I'm just going to put it way off to here. If what? If the OD dot quantity ordered, jeez Louise. All right, so if that quantity ordered is greater than or equal to 5, well, what do I want to do? We're going to do that right now. We are told in our specs that if the quantity ordered is greater than 5, we want to add a new column called updated wholesale value, which is going to give us a 25% price break. I put this on 2 separate lines. You don't have to do it. I only put it on 2 lines like this so you can see everything I'm typing in. All right? So I said here, round the wholesale price, PD dot wholesale price, times 0.75, and let's round that to 2 decimal places. All right? And then when we get done with it, let's save it as updated wholesale price. And that's everything. So we added what you see here in kind of the blue-gray color. Now, stop for a second. Let me double check. Make sure I didn't do any typos. I did. So let's see what the error was. What is wrong here? What's that? Okay. All right. That could be one thing, and I think I might see something else. Nope, that was okay. Yep, see that? So it should be wholesale price. Oops. Still is goofed up. Doesn't like my round statement. So I got to go back and look at that. I know it works because I've already checked it. So let me check here. Round PV dot wholesale price times 0.75 comma 2. Nope, there shouldn't be a comma there. If OD dot quantity ordered is greater than or equal to 5. All right. Okay, got to add a little bit here. Sorry. All right, so we were here. If this is greater than 5, point 2, the comma there, and type in PV dot wholesale price. Again, rather than you copy that, let me make sure it works. Still doesn't like something. Now what? You have an error that corresponds. Yeah, it's right there in the syntax. It doesn't like that round statement. Even though that's exactly what I've got written, that worked. Well, this parenthesis goes with that parenthesis. This parenthesis should go with that parenthesis. Quantity ordered greater than or equal to 5. Why would I put a comma there? I don't know. Try that. I mean, you see how snarky this stuff is. There, it worked. All right. So what did I have to do? Let's go back and we'll look at the whole thing. All right. What you have to add is right here. If the quantity ordered is greater than 5, that's the condition. If that's true, we want to take the wholesale price, all right, and we want to multiply it by 0.75 and round it to 2 decimal places. All right, that's the first part. That's the second part of the round statement. And we want to save it as updated wholesale price. Now, when you do this, I'm going to change it from updated wholesale price. I'm just going to call it up wholesale price, because otherwise it kind of scrolls off the screen. You can call it updated. It doesn't hurt a darn thing. But notice now when I run this, this is what I want to show you. Please look up on the screen. That number right there is being multiplied by 0.75. That gives you that number. Does that make sense? It's a Walmart type of thing. Imagine these are pallets of a product. So if I buy 5 pallets or more of this mountain bike, I get a 25% price break. Does that make sense? You go into Costco and Sam's Club and some of these places where you see stuff stacked to the ceiling, and you know they're buying it in mass quantity. Why? Because if they buy enough of them, they get a price break. That's exactly what I tried to do right here. So let me make it a little smaller here. You can see that it's getting, bless you, it's getting big enough that really doesn't even fit on the page. All right, that's most of it, but notice we got to scroll down to see what's at the bottom. My question is, does the condition, God bless you, does the condition make sense to you? This is different because what we're actually doing is we're putting in programmatic logic right here. In the last example that we looked at, all we did was we said, give us the product name, the quantity ordered, the retail price, and the wholesale price for everything. And we're doing that again, but now we're saying, if you ordered 5 or more of these items, give me a price break. Only do it if the quantity ordered was greater than or equal to 5. All right? So again, if I come back and run this thing again, and I look and it says, how many results do I get? There they are. It says I've got 8,975 results. That's a lot of results. But notice for the quantity ordered, can you see this? Why is that the same price? Come on. Why is that the same price? Why is this price the same as this price? Why? Because you didn't order enough. Because the number that was ordered there was less than 5. You only got the 25% price break if what you ordered was greater than or equal to 5. So notice if I start making my way back up here, still 1. Probably going to have a lot of these. All right. Still 1. Still 1. So a lot of people just ordered 1 of whatever this was. So let's come back and let's put in here 277. They didn't get a price break because they only ordered 2. All right. They didn't get a price break because they only ordered 3. They didn't get a price break because they only ordered 4. Because it was greater than or equal to 5. Does that make sense? All right, but now when I push it up a little bit, let's move it up to about, I don't know, 125. Well, they still only ordered 4, 114. They ordered 5. They get a price break. All right? I don't know any more to say other than that. Hopefully, what I just showed you made some sense to you. All right? All right, let's quickly finish up the last 3 of these. All right? So, I'm up to number 10. And number 10 says, from the customers table. That's kind of nice. We only are going to use 1 table. All right? So, remember, if I come back here, and I go into here, and I say, describe customers. And I run this. Well, what's nice about that is it shows me that's what I have in there. So every customer has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different things. All right? But from the customer table, we want a query that gives the customer's first name, last name, street address, city. All right? So if we did just that, let's just say we do just those. All right? So I'm going to say select cust first name. This isn't going to be complete. Cust last name. Cust. Let's put these on different lines. It'll look a little better. All right. Customer first name, customer last name, customer street address, customer city, customer state from customers. All right, so I'm telling you to grab all that stuff, and there it is. That makes sense? But what we want to do in here is we don't want it to say WA, we want it to say Washington. We don't want it to say TX, we want it to say Texas. We don't want it to say OR, we want it to say Oregon. We don't want it to say WA, we want it to say Washington. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? We want the state name, not the abbreviation. All right? Now, if I do come back here, again, don't type this in. This is not part of the answer. But if I say select distinct cust state from customers, can somebody tell me, please? If I run this query, what should that show me? Yeah, but what about it? It should only show me each state once, regardless of how many customers I have. So when you look at this and I run it, those are my states. You won't have Missouri unless you put yourself in, or you put in Mr. Corrigan, or you put in me, or you put in Mr. Not, etc. Okay? We're told to only change California, Oregon, Texas, and Washington. So those are the only ones I'm going to change. We could change Missouri too. Don't have to. All right? So let's write the query. So we still want to select the cust first name, and let's alias it. So we'll say as cust first name cust last name as cust last name cust street address as cust street address. All right. Now is when it changes. You remember in C# days, we did that case statement where we had, or the switch statement where we had cases. That's what we're going to do now. But the syntax is different. So we're going to say here, case when cust state equals CA, then California. And I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to grab this when, and I'm going to copy it in a bunch of times. So when it's OR, we want it to be Oregon. When it's TX, we want it to be Texas. And finally, when it is WA, we want it to be Washington. And then finally, just in case there's something else in there, else, all right, we'll just say unknown. So if it's not one of those four states, it should just say unknown. And here you say end as state name. Oh, why am I getting that? Is unknown. And as state name. Well, let's see if it fixes itself. From customers order by state name. All right. Now it's giving me an error here, and I don't know why, because I've run the query before and it's worked. Case when cust state when cust state California. Well, that's a mistake right there. That should be OR. That's one error. Texas, Washington, California, Oregon, Texas, Washington, California. Else unknown. End as an alias was previously found near state name. The alias was found near unexpected token near state name. Again, this is so easy when you're doing this, just to have the system not understand what you're trying to do. All right, for now, I'm going to remove this as state name. You're going to see why that's not good in just a second. So let me grab this, save it to the clipboard, and run it. Oh, what does it like? Line 4 doesn't like something. Actually, this is selecting it here when we do this. It is selecting it. Just going to go back and double check my own syntax. Select cust first name as cust first name, cust last name as cust last name. Ah, here it is. No comma there. That's enough to screw it up. All right, now I want to see if I put the as back. Oops. It's going to take that or not take that. Doesn't look like it, still doesn't like it. Let's run this. Oh, come on. Unknown column state name in order clause. Order by. Okay, I'm not going to be able to do any order by because it won't allow me to do that as statement. Would you give me a flippin' break? Unknown column name, state name in order clause, which isn't there anymore. See the difference? We now have Washington, Texas, California, etc. See that? All right. Notice what it did. Since we didn't have an as in there, since that didn't work, it took the whole frickin' thing and it made that the heading. All right. That's not good. And I played around with this. All right, and got it to work, but for some reason, typing it in exactly like I have it in the key. In fact, let me grab it from the key. So I don't see anything I did differently. It's giving me an error. So I'm sure it's going to when I go and run this. You know, it's going to come in here and it's going to give me some kind of, no. See that? It gave me an error, but it took it anyway. That's what I wanted. All of them in order by state name. Why are these unknown? Why are those unknown? Because we didn't put Missouri in there. If I wanted to do that, you don't have to do this. But if you want to do this, feel free to go in and just copy this line right here. Put it in there and say when it equals MO, then Missouri. You don't have to do that. Feel free to do that if you want to. All right. So let me run it again. Now notice I have Missouri. All right. Let me ask you a question. Really, I'd like an answer. Why didn't that order matter? I'm asking you that question. Why right there? Why doesn't that order matter? I didn't, you know, that one's not in alphabetic order. Why did it still work? It's not a hard question. Why didn't I have to take this one and move it up there so it was in alphabetic order? Because it never had to be in any kind of order. It doesn't matter. It's like if I say right now, I want to see if Evan is in this room. I want to see if Andrew is in this room. I want to see if Jesse is in this room. Doesn't matter if I say Jesse, Evan, Andrew, or Jesse, Andrew, Evan, or Evan, Andrew, Jesse, except no. I just happened before to have it in order, but then I added this one. I don't know why it's giving that error, and even more so, I don't know why it's giving that error and yet working. But it is. And again, what I want you to understand here is the same kind of thing we mentioned before, and that is good, bad, indifferent, understand it, don't understand it. We are programming here. And what do I mean? We are using conditional logic. We are telling the system to take a look, and if it sees a state code of CA, replace that with the word California. If it sees a state code of OR, replace that with Oregon. If it sees a state code of TX, replace that with Texas. If it sees a state code of WA, replace it with Washington. If it sees a state code of MO, replace it with Missouri. Does all that make sense? Anybody that didn't get theirs to work or has a question, something just doesn't make sense?
Do you put, could it be anything to do with putting locations around the statement?
Around here?
Yeah.
Still flagging it as an error, and my guess is it'll still work too. And I remember when I did this, I thought, this is just quirky. But I actually got that error to go away. I don't remember what I did to make it go away, but it was Googling a boatload of stuff. All right? And I'll tell you what, it's 9:04. Let's take a break. Let's come back at 9:20, and we'll do the last two. All right? I'm just going to pause this tape. All right, if you want that error to go away, Evan found this, thank you. You just take the case statement up from the word case till the word end and put it in parentheses. And I believe that the reason for that is the as is technically not part of the case statement. But by not putting it in parens, the system thinks it is part of it. So if you just put a paren here before the C in case, and a left paren and a right paren after the word end. All right? And it still works. So I mean, you put that in and you run it, boom. There it is. All right? All right, I'm going to do number 11 with you, and I'll tell you how to do number 12 because it's not difficult. 11 and 12 are almost the same question. All right? So, it says for number 11, let's find that on here. It says, show a query that provides the customer first name, the customer last name, all right, and the quantity ordered. To do that, you've got to join together three tables. The customers table, the orders table, and the order details table. All right? And we're going to do this in two ways. So if you'd watch me do it, because what I'm going to put up there at the beginning is not a complete query. All right? So if you just watch this, hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense then. And then I'll put the whole thing up there, so if you want to copy it in, you can. So this is going to be select, and I just concatenated the customer's name together. So I said concat, cust first name, with a space, cust last name. All right. So I concatenated that stuff there together as cust name. Maybe a break. All right. And then, what else? Quantity ordered as QTY order. Make these smaller. There we go. All right. Now, as of right now, it's confused because it's like there's no quantity ordered. We'll fix that in just a minute. All right. So don't worry about the fact that it's giving you errors. It'll be fixed in just a minute. All right. From customers, orders, order details. All right. Now, the problem with this, if you'd call it that, and I need a comma there, that's why I was getting the error. I really should qualify this stuff. I really should say here, C dot customer first name, C dot customer last name, OD dot quantity ordered, and then here this would be customers C, orders O, order details OD. That's what I should do. All right. Now, everything I've shown you so far is correct, but I've got to add something onto the end. So I'm going to say here where C dot customer ID equals O dot customer ID. And look at this. Jesus. O dot order number equals OD dot order number. All right. Now, that's almost everything. That's almost everything. But if you'd watch for a second, I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. Make sure I didn't make any mistakes. All right. So it hasn't. There's a lot of records that get returned here, 3,975, because that's how many orders there were. Does that make sense? So it's returning a lot of stuff. All right. The problem is, I mean, right now it's not terrible. All right. But what I want to make sure I'm doing, okay, I've got some with Susan Vizcas, etc. And if I get to the end, there's Luke Patterson. Why did it start with Susan V's, etc.? I don't know. It's just the way they happen to be put into the system. But what we want to do is we want to take that query and we want to add something to it. In other words, we want to, after we do this, we then want to group it by C.cust last name. All right? And then finally order it by in descending order. That's the whole thing right there. Again, you're all trusting, too trusting. Let me run it and make sure it works. All right? Well, if you look now, it says we only have 21 records that we put in there. Why is it doing that? Because it grouped them together. All right? And the query itself isn't the best query in the world, but I tried to do something where it would force you, force you to do a group by. All right? The only thing that you have to add, if you look up on the screen here, even if you're typing, stop for a second. The only thing you have to add for number 12 is after this line that says group by, hit enter, and put a having clause in there. I'll let you figure that out because it's very simple. All right, that's it. One last thing I want to show you, and then I'm done talking about this. The rest of the period will be yours. If I come through here and I write this, all right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say select star from customers. In fact, let's not even show everything. Let's select the customer first name, the customer last name. We'll say the customer city. Yeah, I'm running on a damn room on here all the time. This isn't anything you have to type in. The customer state from customers. All right. Does what we just did make sense here? All we asked for was the customer first name, the customer last name, and the customer state. Does that make sense? All right. Well, if I go back and run that same query, notice it's in order. What kind of order? I don't have a clue. It's in whatever order the computer put it. Does that make sense? But I'm going to go back and I'm going to run the same exact query, but I'm just going to add one thing to it. So there it is, but I'm going to say here, order by cust state. That's the only thing I changed. You saw what the output looked like down here a minute ago. Now, when I click go, see the difference? All your California people are put together, then your Missouri, then your Oregon, then your Texas, then your Washington. Does that make sense? If I run that one last time, but I say only with those having cust state so this is group by cust state. But let's see, we've got what? Oregon, Texas. What else was there? There's Oregon, Texas, Missouri, Washington, and California. All right? And what if I only want the ones that have an A in their name? Don't ask me why, but if I wanted to. So I'm going to say here, having cust state like star A star. Again, make sure I didn't mess it up. See what I get? Would you agree those are the only two states that have an A in them? The other ones are Oregon and Missouri and Texas. They don't have A's in them. So what I'm trying to get across to you, what I'd like you to hopefully at least understand, is that when you run these queries and you do an order, a group by, and a having, it's like doing a where. But when you do a where, you're doing it on everything. When you do a having, you do it with a group by. So you're grouping stuff together first. So you typically get less results with a group by and a having than you would with a where. All right? Now, tomorrow will be lab, Friday will be lab, Monday will be lab. This is a promise. This is the last thing I'm telling you. If you look up on the screen here, I'm asking you a question. This is a question for all of you. How many of you know what this is? How many of you have any idea what get is? What is it? Yes, it's a software versioning system. So in other words, let's assume we're going to listen very, for a second, two different scenarios. First, Jesse's a developer. And what he decides to do is he's building some kind of software, but he's building it in stages. He gets done with stage one, he wants to save everything. All right? But he wants to have a copy of everything that was in stage one. So he makes a copy of his folder and he renames it stage two. Remember how we did that with the employee stuff? All right, we kept doing that. If you use Git, what you can do is you can make different versions and save them all in the same file. And then at any time go back to an earlier version. All right? This book is free, it's online, and I'm also putting it right now on my flash drive. And I'm going to ask that each of you, all right, I'm going to ask that each of you grab it and copy it to your system, because starting on Tuesday of next week, we're going to spend probably the rest of the week talking about Git, because I want you to have Git in the last program that we're going to do as a class. All right, and you might say, okay, fine, why? Because what we have been told to do by people in business and industry, what they have asked us to do is from now on to be going over more and more Git, because companies are using it and they want to make sure you understand it. So starting next fall, in the AWD1100 class, the first class that people take, they're going to be getting Git already. They're going to be getting Git all 4 semesters. You're going to get a little of it this semester, a lot of it next semester, and a lot of it the following semester. All right? So let me go and copy this. And I have one last thing to say to you. You probably won't like this. Please come to class on Friday. But when you come to class on Friday, for the first about, I think it's going to be from 9 to 11, we're going to be invaded by 100 students from the Fort Zumwalt School District. I'm not here. Brady Williams, who's one of my afternoon students, Brady will be here, and he will be, basically, I'll show you real quickly what he's going to be walking through with them. I created this stuff, half of it and half of it's his. So when they come in there, we're going to say, you go through the first class and you can create websites that kind of look like this. Not a great website, but notice there's Fort Zumwalt East, there's Hope High School, there's Fort Zumwalt North, South, and West. All right? I've got little articles in here. I took stuff from their websites. Little thing on social media, a very simple little form. And you can jump back and forth to the different parts of the page, etc. So he's going to show them that. Then he's going to say, add people in the second semester. He's going to show them, remember when we did that Magic 8 Ball? That's what that is. All right? Then for the third semester, he's going to show them a loan calculator that I had them build last semester in ASP.NET. And then in the fourth semester, he's going to show them an actual Android app that's rock, paper, scissors. So he's going to show them all of that stuff. I'd like you guys to walk around, and if students have questions or whatever, try to answer them. There will be, I think, 4 different ones. Let me double check. Where is it? So if you look up here, we will have one group in here from 9 to 9:15. There they are. It's got Brady's name, not mine. The second group from 9:20 till 9:35. The third group from 9:40 till 9:55. And the fourth group from 10 to 10:15. So it'll be an hour and 15 minutes of your class where they're going to be in here. I'd ask you to stand so they all have seats. And if they have questions, Brady will try to answer them. But if anybody else has questions, I'm going to ask that you try to answer them. All right? I don't think we're going to do anything with even logging them in. I think he's just going to, since it's only 15 minutes, he's just going to show them the stuff. But if they'd say, you know, they may ask you, what kind of stuff do you do here? If he gets done a little early, and that's the only thing you'd have to answer for them. All right? All right, so the rest of the period then is yours.